Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you entered? Or felt like your legs weren't moving quite the way they used to? These small, seemingly harmless moments might feel like typical signs of aging, but what if they weren't? What if they were early whispers of something far more serious? Something quietly altering your brain long before anyone notices. Dementia, in its most well-known form, Alzheimer's disease, is a neurological condition that gradually erodes memory, behavior, and daily functioning. But here's the truth. It doesn't start suddenly. It creeps in decades earlier, quietly and stealthily. Over 55 million people across the world are living with dementia, yet many remain undiagnosed until the disease has taken a firm grip. It is the leading cause of disability and dependence in individuals over the age of 45. And contrary to popular belief, dementia is not a natural part of aging. It's a disease, and like all diseases, the earlier we catch it, the more power we have to fight it. The real tragedy is this. The earliest warning signs are often dismissed. They're subtle, easy to overlook, or wrongly chalked up to just getting older. But by tuning in and paying attention to those early signals, we can change the course of this condition. From changes in movement and posture to a weakening grip, there are physical cues that speak volumes about what's going on in the brain. Let's begin with one of the most underrated clues: changes in posture and walking patterns. Have you ever noticed yourself or a loved one taking shorter steps, shuffling, or dragging feet while walking? Maybe you've seen someone struggle to lift their knees or lean to one side without realizing it. These aren't just quirky habits. They're neurological messages. The brain plays a critical role in motor control, coordination, and balance. When dementia begins to take hold, these systems may falter. You might see someone have trouble with utensils, fumbling with forks, struggling to hold a cup, or suddenly needing help with basic tasks they used to manage easily. Even something as ordinary as standing up from a chair may become an unexpected challenge. These early movement-based signals are the body's way of hinting that the brain is losing some control over the body. But why do these signs matter? Because they show up early, often before memory loss does. And if we act fast, we can implement protective strategies to slow the disease. Regular movement, strength training, and coordination exercises can help delay physical and cognitive decline. We must not ignore these early clues. They aren't random. They're a pattern, one that, if caught early, could lead to life-changing interventions. That's why it's essential to understand what your body's telling you. So let me ask you, have you noticed any small shifts in how you move? Do your steps feel shorter or your balance more uncertain? Could this be more than just aging? Stick with me. We're just getting started. The next symptom may be even closer to home than you realize. What happens when your senses start to deceive you? When everyday things, walking upstairs, pouring a drink, even judging how far away a table is, suddenly feel unfamiliar or off. Most people wouldn't associate these moments with dementia, but they should. Because one of the most overlooked early warning signs of dementia lies not in what you forget, but in how you perceive the world around you. Dementia doesn't just affect memory, it affects how the brain interprets sensory information. Depth perception, spatial awareness, even the ability to smell or hear clearly. These functions rely on healthy neural communication. When that communication starts to break down, the world itself begins to feel confusing. And that confusion is often mistaken for clumsiness, bad hearing, or simple distraction. Let's break it down. Imagine someone struggling to pour tea and spilling it regularly, not because their hands are weak, but because they can't properly judge the distance between the cup and the teapot. That's a spatial awareness issue. Or maybe they frequently bump into furniture, misstep on stairs, or feel lost in crowded spaces. These aren't random accidents. They're messages. And the sender is the brain. Now think about smell. Did you know that a loss of smell, especially when it happens without a cold or sinus infection, can be one of the first indicators of Alzheimer's disease? It's true. Studies show that the decline in olfactory senses can begin long before memory problems appear. And if someone no longer enjoys the aroma of their favorite meal or starts adding too much salt because they can't taste food properly, these changes might not be trivial. Hearing is another red flag. You might assume that hearing loss is simply a part of aging, But hearing difficulty, especially in middle age, has been strongly linked to an increased risk of dementia. Why? Because when hearing declines, the brain has to work overtime to interpret sounds, pulling energy away from other cognitive functions, like memory and focus. That constant strain adds up. And then there's hypersensitivity. Some individuals may suddenly feel overwhelmed by loud environments or have trouble filtering out background noise. They might avoid social settings because conversations feel exhausting or disorienting. This isn't antisocial behavior, it's neurological. Let me ask you this. Have you or someone close to you started turning the volume up louder than usual? Do strong smells go unnoticed? Has there been a sudden increase in falls, spills, or general disorientation in familiar spaces? If so, these aren't just quirks of getting older. These are early signs, and they matter. What's critical is that these sensory changes often appear years, sometimes decades, before more obvious symptoms like memory loss. That means we have time to strengthen the brain, protect neural pathways, and introduce strategies that could delay or even prevent more serious decline. So don't dismiss these subtle shifts. Listen to your senses. Your brain may be whispering for help long before it begins to shout. Up next, we'll explore a surprising connection between muscle strength and dementia and why your grip might reveal more than you think. Have you ever struggled to open a jar that used to twist off with ease? Do grocery bags feel heavier than they used to? It's easy to blame these little frustrations on aging or a lack of exercise. But what if they were telling you something deeper? Something about your brain? Surprisingly, your muscles, especially your grip, could be one of the earliest indicators of cognitive decline. Yes, you read that right. Research has shown a powerful link between reduced muscle strength and a higher risk of developing dementia later in life. But why would your hand strength say anything about your memory? Here's what's happening. Your brain isn't just responsible for thinking and remembering, it also controls every movement your body makes. From tying your shoes to turning a doorknob, it's the brain sending instructions through a network of nerves to your muscles. When those signals become slower or weaker, your body starts to reflect that internal breakdown. One of the earliest and most measurable signs of this change? A weaker grip. Studies show that older adults with poor grip strength are more likely to experience cognitive decline over time. That means if you're struggling to open jars, carry grocery bags, or hold on to small objects, it's not just about hand strength. It may reflect broader neural issues, but it doesn't stop there. General muscle weakness in the arms, legs, or core can also play a role. As physical strength declines, people tend to move less. Less movement means less blood flow to the brain, reduced oxygenation, and decreased stimulation of key brain regions. It becomes a vicious cycle. Weak muscles lead to inactivity, and inactivity accelerates cognitive decline. And here's another hidden danger: frailty. Frailty isn't just physical, it's deeply connected to the brain. As people become physically frail, they often lose independence, reduce social interactions, and stop engaging in mentally stimulating activities, all of which raise the risk of dementia. So what can you do? The good news is that it's not too late to turn this around. Studies show that strength training, even in small amounts, can have a protective effect on the brain. Lifting light weights, doing resistance exercises, or even practicing balance and coordination drills can help maintain not only your physical function, but also your cognitive health. Think of your muscles as a mirror, reflecting what's going on inside your brain. If they start to weaken for no clear reason, it's worth paying attention. So here's the question: how strong is your grip? When was the last time you tested it or noticed it change? We often ignore these physical clues, chalking them up to just getting older. But ignoring them could mean missing a critical opportunity to intervene early. Next, we'll dive into another surprising area where dementia shows itself first: your sleep. If your nights are restless or your dreams unusually vivid, your brain might be trying to tell you something even more urgent. What if your dreams weren't just dreams, but signals from your brain trying to warn you? Sleep is when our bodies recover and our brains reset. But when sleep patterns change dramatically or become disturbed, it might not just be a bad night's rest. It could be a red flag, one that many people, and even doctors, miss. Could your restless nights be an early sign of dementia? We often associate dementia with memory problems, but in reality, one of the most underappreciated early warning signs is poor sleep. Not just tossing and turning, but fragmented sleep, vivid nightmares, frequent awakenings, or a sudden need to nap excessively during the day. These are all symptoms that something may be going wrong in the brain, long before memory loss appears. Let's start with insomnia. Difficulty falling asleep, waking up multiple times during the night, or rising too early and feeling unrefreshed may signal more than stress or aging. In fact, studies have linked chronic insomnia with increased deposits of beta amyloid plaques in the brain, the very same proteins found in Alzheimer's disease. Then there's excessive daytime sleepiness. If someone who never used to nap suddenly becomes reliant on naps to get through the day, that's a clue. It might mean their brain is no longer maintaining healthy sleep cycles. This kind of fatigue isn't normal, and it's more than just being tired. Now let's talk about something even more alarming: REM sleep behavior disorder. This condition causes people to physically act out their dreams, kicking, punching, talking, or even falling out of bed. These intense movements can be early signs of Lewy body dementia or Parkinson's-related cognitive decline. If you or a loved one suddenly starts having vivid dreams, followed by physical movement or aggressive thrashing during sleep, don't ignore it. This isn't normal. Vivid nightmares and persistent dream disturbances are another overlooked signal. When the brain is no longer regulating REM sleep properly, dreams can become chaotic, unsettling, or strangely frequent. People often wake up feeling exhausted, confused, or emotionally shaken without knowing why. Why does sleep matter so much? Because deep sleep is when the brain clears out waste, including the toxic proteins that are linked to dementia. Without sufficient deep sleep, these toxins accumulate faster, increasing the risk of memory loss and cognitive decline. The silver lining? Sleep is one area where intervention is very possible. You can improve your sleep through better routines, reducing caffeine and screen time, and managing stress. And if serious issues like REM disorder or sleep apnea are present, medical treatments and therapies can help dramatically. So here's the question: are you sleeping soundly, or has your sleep changed in ways you can't quite explain? Don't write it off. Listen to what your sleep might be saying. Your dreams, your fatigue, your midnight awakenings, they might be early clues your brain is struggling, and catching them early might give you the upper hand. Next, we'll explore how losing interest in life, or even pulling away from loved ones, can be more than just low mood. It might be the emotional side of dementia. Have you ever noticed someone gradually pulling away from the world, losing interest in hobbies, skipping family gatherings, or sitting in silence during conversations? It's easy to assume they're just tired, depressed, or slowing down. But what if that emotional shift isn't mood-related at all? What if it's one of the earliest signs that the brain is beginning to change? Apathy and emotional withdrawal are among the first psychological symptoms of dementia, and they're often missed. Why? Because they don't scream for attention. They whisper. Quietly, steadily, people begin to disengage from the very things that once made life feel meaningful. And those closest to them often mistake this emotional numbing for disinterest or sadness. But apathy in dementia isn't the same as feeling down. It's not caused by a bad day, external stress, or even depression. It's deeper. It stems from actual neurological changes in the areas of the brain that regulate motivation, reward, and social behavior. And that makes it a powerful, yet overlooked early warning sign. Think of someone who used to enjoy gardening, cooking, or playing music. Suddenly, they just stop. Not because they're too tired or busy, but because they no longer feel that spark of joy or curiosity. They don't start new projects. They don't finish old ones. They stop calling friends, decline invitations, or sit passively through events they once loved. Even during family conversations, you might notice less emotional reaction. Jokes don't land the same way. Sad stories don't seem to move them. You'll hear more "I don't care" or "whatever you want" responses. That emotional flatness isn't rudeness. It's the brain disconnecting. And here's the most heartbreaking part. The person often isn't fully aware of these changes. They may not realize how much they've disengaged or why, and others might dismiss it as normal aging or personality changes until it's much further along. Apathy also leads to a dangerous domino effect. The less someone engages with life, the less mental stimulation they get. The less stimulation, the faster cognitive decline may occur. The very act of retreating from the world speeds up the disease that's causing it. So what should you watch for? Has someone stopped doing activities they once loved? Are they withdrawing from social interactions, not just once or twice, but consistently? Are they expressing less excitement, fewer opinions, or showing a flat affect during emotional moments? These may not be personality changes. They may be neurological clues. The good news? Emotional engagement can often be reignited, especially in the early stages. Activities like music therapy, structured social time, and exercise have been shown to rekindle motivation and improve cognitive outcomes. So ask yourself, has someone close to you emotionally stepped back from life? Have they gone quiet in ways that feel different, unsettling even? Don't ignore that silence. It could be your first sign that something deeper is happening in the brain. Coming up next, let's talk about one of the most well-known but least understood symptoms of dementia: trouble with words. Why forgetting simple phrases might be more than just a senior moment. Have you ever had a word on the tip of your tongue only for it to vanish? That happens to all of us sometimes. But what if it starts happening more often? So often that you begin avoiding conversations altogether. When words start slipping away regularly, it may be more than just a momentary lapse. It might be the brain waving a red flag. One of the most recognizable and yet most misunderstood early symptoms of dementia is language difficulty. Not just forgetting a rare word here or there, but real noticeable challenges in speaking, naming, or understanding language. This condition, known as aphasia, is more than forgetfulness. It's a breakdown in the brain's communication system. So how does this look in real life? Maybe someone starts calling a jacket a shirt or refers to a fork as that eating thing. They might pause frequently in conversation, searching desperately for a basic word, or they may start relying on vague terms like thing, stuff, or more often than usual. Over time, these subtle struggles can become more obvious and more frustrating. Sometimes they repeat the same question or story multiple times without realizing it, or they suddenly stop mid-sentence, having completely lost their train of thought. These gaps in speech may seem like distractions, but they're often signs that the brain is failing to retrieve information quickly or at all. Even more concerning is when someone forgets the names of people they know well, not just acquaintances, but close family or lifelong friends. This isn't a temporary glitch. It's a deeper disconnection between memory and language processing. Here's the catch. People experiencing early language decline are often painfully aware that something is wrong. That awareness can lead to embarrassment or withdrawal from conversations. They may begin to speak less, not because they have nothing to say, but because saying it feels difficult or humiliating. And this silence has consequences. Language is not just a communication tool, it's a cognitive workout. When we talk, we're activating memory, processing emotions, making judgments, and connecting with others. So when someone stops engaging verbally, it speeds up cognitive decline and social isolation. It becomes a feedback loop that accelerates the very condition causing the struggle. But there's hope. Early interventions like speech therapy, cognitive exercises, and even regular reading or storytelling can help keep language centers active. And just like physical exercise builds muscle, mental effort can help preserve neural pathways. So ask yourself, have you or someone you care about started struggling with words lately? Has casual conversation become harder than it used to be? Are pauses, wrong word choices, or repetitions becoming more frequent? These moments aren't just slips, they're clues, and the earlier you notice them, the more options you have. Recognizing the signs of aphasia can lead to medical evaluation, lifestyle changes, and strategies that keep communication and connection alive longer. In next part, we'll look at the broader picture, the 10 most classic signs of dementia, how they progress, and what you can do right now to protect the brain's future. What if you could spot the warning signs of dementia years before they became severe? What if just paying attention, really paying attention, could change the outcome for someone you love? The truth is, dementia doesn't start suddenly. It unfolds gradually, often in quiet and subtle ways. And by the time it becomes obvious, precious time has already been lost. So let's take a moment to revisit the 10 most classic signs of dementia. Symptoms that may seem harmless on their own, but together form a pattern we can't afford to ignore. Memory loss that disrupts daily life. This isn't about misplacing keys once. It's forgetting conversations entirely, missing appointments regularly, or asking the same question over and over again. Language problems and communication breakdowns. Struggling to find words, repeating phrases, or losing a conversation mid-sentence. These signs reflect deeper trouble in the brain's ability to process and retrieve language. Mood and personality changes. A once cheerful person becoming irritable, suspicious, anxious, or withdrawn, especially in familiar settings, is often an emotional reflection of neurological change. Poor decision-making and risky behavior. Overspending, falling for scams, or dressing inappropriately for the weather could indicate a decline in judgment and reasoning skills. Confusion about time or place. Losing track of dates, seasons, or even forgetting where they are or how they got there is a serious red flag. Repetitive behavior and questioning. Asking the same thing repeatedly, despite being given answers, suggests the brain isn't retaining short-term information. Misplacing items in illogical places, phones in the fridge, shoes in the oven. This isn't typical forgetfulness. It's a breakdown in memory mapping and spatial organization. Hallucinations. Seeing, hearing, or smelling things that aren't there, particularly in later stages, can occur in certain types of dementia, like Lewy body or advanced Alzheimer's. Incontinence. As dementia progresses, the brain can lose its ability to manage physical functions, resulting in accidents and further emotional distress. Social withdrawal and loss of interest. Avoiding hobbies, canceling plans, or no longer caring about once loved routines is more than apathy. It's an early sign the brain is pulling away. Each of these signs matters on its own, but together they form a roadmap toward early diagnosis. The earlier dementia is identified, the more can be done. While there's no cure yet, proactive steps can slow the progression and maintain quality of life. So what can you do right now? Stay alert. Don't ignore small changes. Keep a journal if you notice recurring symptoms in yourself or someone close to you. Talk to a healthcare professional early, before the changes become irreversible. And take action. Challenge your brain with reading, learning, and creative tasks. Move your body regularly. Eat a brain-healthy diet. Prioritize deep, restorative sleep. Manage chronic illnesses like diabetes or hypertension. And above all, stay socially and emotionally connected. Because dementia doesn't just rob memory, it steals moments, connection, and independence. But with early action, we can protect what matters most. The brain is telling a story. The question is, are we listening in time?